Hey YouTube, hope you all had a good weekend. Thanks for joining me here again today. It was a half and half weekend where I am. It was very nice weather on Saturday, rode over to Pensacola, Florida, and then yesterday it was dreary and rainy pretty much all day and just ended up being lazy. But anyhow, today I wanted to talk about creating plant-based recipes. It's really not that complicated, and I think if you just learn a few tricks and you know, practice a little bit, you don't have to be constantly asking people for recipe. What's the recipe to that? What's the recipe for that? There's people that will, every bite or morsel of food they see, they're asking for a recipe for. And me, I don't like to ask a lot of questions and wait around for an answer. I kind of just like to be able to do things when I'm ready to do them and kind of know how to do them. But part of the thing today I'm going to talk about, and I guess maybe I take it a little bit for granted, is in the year 2024 where everybody has some sort of a cell phone or a tablet, laptops, what have you. I just assume that people know how to get what they need on the internet. But maybe I take it for granted because, you know, way back early, like 1999, 2000, a job I've had at the time in Costa Rica, I started at that job and I did lots of searches. I was constantly researching things for tourism, advertising, what have you, and I just kind of learned how to navigate around the internet. And it just kind of evolves over the years. You know, you start in the beginning where you're just looking for words and, you know, it's very blocky. And then you figure out you can ask these things. You can ask Google. You can ask now whatever AI you're using. You can ask direct questions. You can almost have a conversation like you're talking to another person. So when I share my recipes here, and that's why I don't share a whole lot of recipes here, because I'm just hacking them. That's all I'm doing. I'm hacking them. Now, a few things I've learned along the way, but this method, very, very little is just from watching, you know, but like from seeing content like on Instagram and YouTube. One of the people that I learned the most about kind of like how to create salad dressings, and I eat a lot of salads, so salad dressings and some sort of sauce or topping are like my main things that I even think about a recipe for. And I learned a lot of that from Lissa of Raw Food Romance. And I just learned little tricks. It's not like about knocking off somebody else's recipes. I use a lot of her recipes, or I have my little handful that I use from time to time. But I also learn things like what basic ingredients do to recipes, how to thicken something. These things go together. Like a lot of I noticed this early on from her and other people, that a lot of people use dates in salad dressings. I noticed that people will use things like the hemp seeds, and you know, then I learned how to use a little bit of tahini. You put some garlic, you do this, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But some of the recipes, like a lot of the things that I will share on here, are just things that I get a taste for. Like if you'll go back to a video, I believe it was about a week ago, it was a meal idea where I had that stuffed spaghetti squash, and I just kind of kicked out sort of a mock marinara sauce. Now what I did there, and I do for a lot of recipes, is like, okay, I started thinking, like, I don't even know what led me to it. I saw something online, I saw something similar. I said, okay, I want to make something with a marinara sauce. I'm going to pour it over this. Anyhow, I go to Google, good old Google. Everybody knows Google. And I go there and I just start doing simple searches. Like, so I'll use the marinara sauce as an example. Sometimes I might go in and just put marinara sauce. Other times with things, I will specifically go plant-based marinara sauce or plant-based this or that. But a lot of times I'll look at both, and what I will do is on either set of results or whatever results I'm looking at, I won't just look at one and go, okay, that's it. I will look at 3 or 4 or 5 different recipes. I will notice similarities. Things will jump out at me. I'll say, oh, I really like that. Oh, I don't think I need that. That's really not necessary. And a lot of people will do that, myself included. You tend to start adding things and then you realize, okay, I don't really need this ingredient. And the big thing that I like to do, because, you know, a lot of those, even if they're plant-based, especially the things that will show up on Google, as the top searches, the top results. They're not necessarily, even though they are plant-based, they're not always focused on, kind of the nutritional parameters that I care for. Like a lot of times they're a lot higher than in fat, or a lot of times like you'll see a recipe and they'll actually call for a lot of nuts, more nuts than I put in a recipe, or they'll call for oil. Not totally anti-oil. I'm not much of an always and never person, but I don't generally use oil in my recipes. There's a few things that I'll use a tablespoon here and there, but anyhow, so that's what I do. I start thinking like, okay, how can I adjust for this? What can I use instead of this? Or I like these. In other words, basically it's like, you just kind of, when you look at recipes over and over like that, you just start kind of getting a vision for it where you're like, yeah, this will work. Or these are things that I have available, or these are things that are, affordable for me. Because a lot of times with these recipes too, is once you start doing the math, they look like they're tasty, but once you start doing the math of all the ingredients in there, you're like, well, that's an expensive ass recipe right there. There's a lot of creators out there, the fancy creators on social media and YouTube as well, that their food looks amazing. It looks phenomenal, but I'm like, okay, if I followed your path, I'd be spending, $30, $40, $50 a day on my food, because they have very specific little kind of niche ingredients in there. And sometimes those little simple niche ingredients will bump the price up on your recipe quite a bit. So I'm always thinking about those things as well. I'm thinking about adjusting, the nutrition in there. I'm thinking about adjusting based on things that I can find in my area. And I'm also adjusting based on the price of it. Because I try to be as budget conscious as possible when it comes to this lifestyle, and I've gotten a little bit way more. Sometimes it can just get out of hand. You just go buy the things that you like and whatever, and it's really just been within the last 2 or 3 years that I've really kind of focused on the budget aspect of it. So just try this, and sometimes. Because when you start getting hungry, or you got your mind set on something that you want right now, you don't necessarily have the patience for it. So start playing around, look around, try to create recipes when you're not hungry, or when you're not necessarily thinking about eating a specific thing at a specific moment. But if you will do that, and like I say, there's no magic to this video. It's just plain, learning how to utilize and use the internet. I'm telling you, you've probably heard me mention this before. We have more knowledge at our fingertips than any other people in the history of the world ever did. So a lot of the times we have control over more things, and I'm not just talking about the food. We can pretty much find out all these things on our own, and we don't have to necessarily like float a question out there and wait for somebody to get back to you. Hope they'll get back to you, because internet's a fast moving place. It's kind of like you just kind of gotta catch on. But anyhow, I just hope that maybe this will help 1 or 2 people today. There's some people that might still just aren't comfortable on the internet. I have older friends. I'm 60. I have friends I know my age that can hardly get around the internet. But anyhow, hope you enjoyed this video today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you here several times throughout it. Peace.